So something that I haven't done at all in this channel yet is a video game review. So I thought I'd start with a pretty recent game called Days Gone. This game has been out for almost 2 months now, but due to just having other games I wanted to get through first, I didn't really get to properly dig into this game until about 3 weeks ago. And I platinumed it there last week. So since I've put probably around 100-ish hours into this and done everything there is to do, I think I'm fit enough to review it and give my thoughts on it. So what is Days Gone? Well, Days Gone is a video game created by Ben Studios. It stars Sam Witwer as Deacon St. John, and the game is set around 2 years after a zombie apocalypse has broken out, and it follows Deacon as he travels around various settlements trying to figure out what happened to his wife Sarah, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Days Gone first made its presence known almost 3 years ago exactly, when it was announced at Sony's press conference at E3 in 2016. And the trailer was so cool, but it gave us nothing. I just knew from how great the soundtrack was and that Sam Witwer was in it that I wanted it. I didn't actually own a PS4 yet because I was mainly Xbox One for most of this current gen, but between this and Spider-Man I eventually broke and had to buy one. So how is the game? Well, it's fun. It's clunky, but it's fun. The only problem is that you don't really start having fun until you're finished the first about 10 to 15 hours, and that's a problem. After you finish the first part of the game and the map finally opens up, the game becomes an absolute blast for the most part, but getting there takes far too long. The first 15 hours are spent in a mostly boring forest area, the map is small and it just is overall not a very pleasant experience. It makes your first time in this game a slog and a disappointing time. I could see a lot of players checking out during these first few hours because of this. Sure, a game can have downtime, but not during the first hours of the game. That's when you're supposed to build your player base, that's when you're supposed to draw players in and not lose them, but because of the way this game is structured, it will lose a lot of players in its first couple hours because of how it is. I see a lot of the fandom trying to justify this by saying that you should keep playing the game, that you shouldn't just quit a game after 10 to 15 hours. But some story mode games only take around 8 hours to complete the entirety of the game. 10 to 15 hours is the length of a small single player story game, so the fact that you should play beyond that just to get into the real meat of the game is a huge problem. Some people don't want to go through a certain amount of hours of a game just so they can get to the good stuff, and they shouldn't have to. The game is also still very broken. Low frame rate drops happen constantly, and sometimes within the first 10 minutes of the game you have to turn off your PlayStation because of the amount of frame rate drops that you're getting. And sometimes the only way to fix the frame rate drops is to restart your PlayStation. These happen constantly when you're riding your motorbike, and the bike is a crucial part of the game. Like 90% of the game is spent on your motorbike, and it happens most of the time when you're riding that. This makes playing it kind of an uphill battle sometimes, and there's also been so little patches. There's been, I think, 2 big updates since the game came out, and like that were patches for bugs and that. Most of them just spawn new bugs, but none of them have fixed this frame rate issue. Some of the updates even made it worse. Besides frame rate drops, the game is still pretty bug riddled. Many times I've run into rendering issues where cutscenes look like PS2 games and the like, but to be honest, it's not half as bad as the frame rate issues. They can get pretty game breaking. Those problems aside, this game is massive, it's huge. If you're a completionist like me, or you just like to get the most out of your games, Days Gone will keep you busy for weeks. The main story alone took me over a week of playing a lot every day. Like, I was playing sometimes 8-9 hours a day, and the story still took me like well over a week. And while most of the story is very enjoyable, it does get overly long at times. I can't count how many times I kind of just wanted the story to end due to how many branching side quests would start, and you would need to do all of, like, well, not all of the side quests, but you would need to do a lot of the side quests before you could progress in the story. It got very frustrating and a little tedious when a lot of the side quests were kind of the same. You track somebody on your bike, and you kill some zombies for people. It was fun, but it got tedious. It's great that between this, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Red Dead Redemption 2, countless others, that we're getting to the point where video games have 100 hours in them, and it's kind of becoming the norm, and it's great when it's quality over quantity. But the thing about Days Gone, and even with Assassin's Creed as well, I had a huge problem with this. The game is very much quantity over quality. They fill it with random, pointless little stuff to keep you busy, but things that aren't necessarily fun. And a lot of the random pointless missions or story points could have been cut from this game, and it would have made the game just overall better, a tighter, better paced, more fluid experience, and it would have really helped the game overall. One thing this game really does nail though is the survival aspect. The earliest hours of the game are kind of challenging due to how much stronger most enemies are than you. The zombies are scary at first because of how ill-equipped you are to deal with them, and hordes are an amazing game mechanic, and I'm so surprised it hasn't become a big thing in zombie games until Days Gone. Hordes are terrifying, and even when you're the highest level with the best weapons, you still need to strategize against them. You need to make sure there's a big distance between you and the horde you're fighting, due to how in a literal second they could destroy you. You find yourself constantly scavenging, discovering how precious bullets are. You start deciding that it's best to use a melee weapon on the zombie, or freaker as they're called, because if you run out of bullets and then run into a human character that does have a gun, then it's pretty much game over. This is a great thing that the game managed to accomplish. Many survival-themed games really stumble in the survival area, but this game excelled at it. And with less bugs and tighter gameplay and tighter story, this game really could have become a genuine hit. The story beats and gameplay are something that I think Bend Studios will sort out for the sequel, because with how this game ends, I think we can 100% expect a sequel, and it'll most likely be on next gen. I also need to give a quick shout out to the game's soundtrack. That is honestly one of the best video game soundtracks I've ever heard, and it is movie quality. So I'm not going to say you should buy this game, because video games are very subjective. Everyone's different when it comes to them, but overall I had a huge blast with this game. Besides the problems I mentioned, I was happy with buying this game, and I will buy the sequel. So I would give this a 7 out of 10. So do you want to play Days Gone? Have you already? What did you think of it? And thank you very much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. And I hope you have an awesome day.